Hi guys, this is Prab. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I've connected to some people on my healing journey after I spiritually awakened. Some people are not at all interested in knowing themselves deeply or working on themselves because on the surface their lives are not as miserable or like they look okay or they're relatively even good in fact. But people who are deep, people who really are interested in exploring depths of who they are do understand that your life doesn't have to really suck for you to be able to put efforts into really understanding who you are. And it's often always the pain, I think, that's the biggest motivator or failure that motivates us to go beyond surface level, to try and make sense of what really is going on when you're going through difficult situations in your life. But what's harder is when we are living relatively normal lives where there is no obvious tension or distress, but then we are struggling with deeper issues like deeper feelings and emotions and needs that sometimes we don't understand ourselves, or if we understand then we don't know how to put it into words. And if we are able to put those needs into words, we hardly have people around us who can actually understand that language, who speak the same language, who can reciprocate your needs, who can meet your needs. And that's, I think, the loneliest place to be. I want to touch upon one such deep aspect of ourselves that plays a major role in almost all of our life problems, and that is our inner child. So your inner child is basically a part of your brain which still mimics that emotional world from when you were, for example, 1 to 7 primarily, or it could be 1 to 12 years old. It's not specific to just those ages. It's from the time when you were still learning how to be a person, basically, like how to relate, how to feel safe, how to express your needs, how to express your emotions, how to communicate. So you were learning survival skills, basically. That part of your brain that we refer to as inner child is still carrying those emotional imprints, whether they were positive or negative. The ones that were negative are basically the root cause of most of our pain and trauma that we are carrying until it gets addressed. This inner child part of you, it's referred to as inner child, and if we are trying to heal and understand this part of us, we usually visualize the younger self. What it really is, it's a part of our brain that got programmed a certain type of way, oftentimes negatively programmed, which is running the show of our life on autopilot. People who did not have the luxury of growing up around emotionally mature, grounded, and healthy people, and that's eventually who you become as well as you grow up. Every single child, as they are growing up, they need 80% of the time during their lifespan as a child, they need that healthy attunement to a healthy and mature adult. 80% of the time, at least one of their parents has to be an emotionally mature person for the kid to be able to develop secure attachment. Secure attachment is basically when you can relate to other people from a secure place where you're not constantly in survival mode or scanning for danger or as if there's some immediate threat in your environment. A secure kid does not develop these abilities to survive because they feel safe in their environment, they feel cared for, they feel their needs are met, and they are loved basically for who they are. A secure attachment is formed when you're not punished for making mistakes, when you are seen for who you are, when you're allowed to express your emotions and your needs, and you're not punished for anything, you're not expected to not cause problems. You're not only loved when you're not throwing tantrums, because a little kid does not come with built-in tools to always do the right thing. They need to be taught, but at the same time, since they do not know what's right or wrong in the first place, they cannot be punished for not knowing. They cannot be punished for being themselves, which many of our parents did not understand to begin with. So they were obviously not able to teach us what they did not know themselves in the first place. Whenever a child is crying for whatever reason, because that's what kids do majority of the time, they cry, they throw tantrums, they react to things. When there's nobody to listen to them, to show compassion towards them, and to tell them that they're okay, what eventually happens is that we learn to suppress those emotions. Even though we might still cry, but deep down the inner talk, the inner feelings and emotions start being suppressed, because we eventually make sense of our surroundings as if nobody cares about us. nobody loves us and we are not worthy of being taken care of. And this is how those core wounds start developing, like I am not good enough, I am not worthy, I am not lovable, I don't deserve good things, I don't deserve love. This is how the core wounds start developing, and they carry on with us well through our adulthood until we actually actively heal ourselves from those wounds. I'm going to talk about some of the signs of having a wounded inner child that is still controlling your life in ways that you may not realize. One of the signs is having a low self-esteem, where you constantly belittle your own self. You don't have enough confidence to speak up for yourself. You think you cannot do certain things, never taking risks in life, trying to over-explain yourself, shrinking and thinking that nobody is interested in you, not belonging anywhere, feeling isolated. I have to mention this, that not all of your trauma comes from your home environment or your parents. A lot of it also comes from school, your teachers and your peers, how you were treated by your friends or any other people associated with you when you were young. A lot of self-doubt and extremely high rejection sensitivity. So having low self-worth, always second guessing yourself, feeling easily hurt, being overly emotional and sensitive, staying in toxic relationships and connections, thinking that you are a failure or victimizing yourself, attracting emotionally unavailable people in your life, trying to chase them, feeling unlovable, unworthy, feeling lonely, constantly seeking other people's company, not putting yourself out there, not going after your dreams, not being able to take action on your dreams and things that are meaningful to you, not knowing who you are, constantly feeling this fear of judgment, thinking people are judging you and doubting your abilities. If people reject you, you feel like a failure and you don't deserve anything. It's like one small mishappening in your life brings you down to like zero, where you feel worthless and you don't feel like you're good enough for anything. Sometimes the smallest things trigger you and make you extremely angry, where your reactions are like way more extreme as compared to the situation at hand. That often comes from underlying grief, underlying pain that is still needing to be addressed. Pain that you felt when you were little, when nobody was there for you to listen to you or to try and understand you. So these deep rooted anger issues go way back. This is the reason why some people react so strongly. So it's often these extreme feelings in the moment are coming from your past. They have very less to do with the current situation, and the person who is reacting has to take responsibility for their emotions. You can have all the compassion towards these feelings, but at the end of the day, any harm that your trauma behaviors are causing you or other people, you are responsible to heal those things. And this is a very common one. It's called fear of abandonment, where you are constantly scared that people are going to leave you, where you're often so scared that you would want to hold on to people, situations, things with your dear life. And that very fear of losing something becomes the very reason that you end up losing that thing. And eventually what that does is that validates your fear of abandonment, which you are subconsciously holding on to, because fear of abandonment causes you to self-abandon again and again, hoping that people will choose you, people will not leave you. But what you are doing in the process is that you are abandoning yourself over and over again to earn people's approval, to try and get this feeling of safety which you never got when you were little. So this fear of abandonment also manifests as hyper independence and being scared of connecting to other people in the first place. Some people could also leave before being left, because at the end of the day they do not believe in themselves, they do not love themselves at the core, and they don't feel good enough or worthy enough, which is all of it is going unconsciously sometimes. Some people are self-aware to understand these things, and a lot of people are not. They would justify this behavior in other ways, but at the core, it's the wound of abandonment playing out. So they think they're not good enough of being chosen or loved, so they never connect deeply in the first place. So this also manifests as fear of intimacy, fear of being seen, fear of being vulnerable. This also brings us to different attachment styles that are formed during chaotic childhoods. If a kid grew up in an unpredictable environment where one moment they were met with love, other moment they were met with hostility and emotional unavailability or complete absence, the child does not understand at all how to make sense of what's going on. So that's mostly when anxious attachment is formed, where you're extremely dependent on other people to validate your existence, to validate your emotions, to make you feel comfortable, to give you lots of words of affirmation. When a child grows up with a parent who is mostly absent or had narcissistic traits, they were emotionally immature and they didn't really care about emotional needs of that child, these kids often grow up as being avoidant or being disorganized. Attachment style, where they basically have this huge fear of intimacy and they're afraid of letting people in. I'm just covering the very basics. You can understand a lot about yourself or other people if you understand your attachment styles, your way of relating to other people, which often comes from your childhood and can be healed if we can see these patterns for what they are and try and walk through them. Emotional numbness is a big one. That is a sign of wounded inner child. You basically feel numb. You don't really feel that happy or sad. Like there's absence of both positive or negative emotions. There's another one which when I came across, it was very eye-opening for me. It's something called maladaptive daydreaming, where you are basically dissociating through daydreaming, because sometimes as a child, the things, the pain or the trauma that was going on around you, the trauma that was being inflicted upon you consciously, unconsciously, intentionally or unintentionally, was so extreme that you had to basically dissociate from all that experience by daydreaming about random things or about future. This is one of the ways that some people cope. That continues well into adulthood. Sometimes when we are talking to people, they're not present, they dissociate. They're basically not present. Their bodies are there, but their minds, they just disconnect and they just dissociate. And it's also called dissociation, when you are completely dissociated from this reality. Another sign you have a wounded inner child is that you have a difficulty trusting other people. You don't easily trust other people, you always doubt their intentions. So that causes a lot of problems around you. Sometimes you want to test them, test their intention, test their motives. And in this kind of pursuit, sometimes what happens is we end up pushing people away who were maybe good for us or maybe who did not have bad intentions. But so what happens is when we unconsciously engage into all of these behaviors, these coping mechanisms, sometimes we end up pushing people away, because the root of all of these behaviors lies in not trusting yourself, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling lovable, not feeling good enough. That is why you are doing all these behaviors in the first place. You're trying to test people, you're doubting their intentions, you just don't feel safe enough. It's because all of these feelings are lacking on the inside. Okay, it's that part of your brain, it's that inner child part of your brain that still has those patterns playing in the background. Okay, so that is what's your energetic state at the moment, and you're acting from that place, which is why you're unable to form healthy connections, which is why you're unable to form healthy attachments. You may have a certain education, certain skills, you may have a certain reputation as a person. That means very little when all of these things remain unaddressed within yourself, in your inner being. Okay, that's why all of us have toxic traits, all of us have a good side and a bad side to us. This is why healing your inner child, healing your past traumas is very important for you to come into complete alignment with yourself. If any of these things are showing up in your behaviors, there's something that needs to be addressed at a deeper level. You need to understand and heal and acknowledge your inner child. The healing begins when you start acknowledging. To acknowledge that something exists, you basically seeing that part and you're validating its existence. So that kind of starts the healing process. So next time you come across any such situations that make you feel a certain type of way, take a pause and put a hand on your heart and validate yourself. Validate that part of you, that inner child part of you. Start talking and communicating with your inner child like you would talk to a little child. Once you develop this connection with your inner child, when you start talking to it, when you start validating its existence, that's when you start healing it. I'll make a part 2 of this video about some practices and about some things that you can do to heal your inner child. But it starts with acknowledging its existence, that you experienced some unfortunate things in your life which were not your fault. You could not control those things and you did not know how to overcome those things. But now you're an adult and not dependent on anyone. You can take care of yourself. And the obvious reason you should do this work is because you want to live your highest potential. You want to be kind to yourself. You want to be in healthy relationships, healthy connections. You want to treat your parents or your family in loving ways. You want to show up as the best version of yourself. You want to be able to make peace with your anxiety or any uncomfortable emotions that you experience. You have to do all of this work from a place of love and kindness. I always say this in all of my videos. Anything you do in life, the foundation should be love and kindness, nothing other than that. You can never change or heal anything if you judge it in the first place, if you hold any type of judgment or resentment towards it. Your inner child is not some immature part of you or silly part of you that puts you in difficult or stupid situations or makes you feel ashamed of your behavior afterwards. It's this part of you that did not, my light died, but it's okay, I'm going to keep going. So it's this part of you that did not receive the love that it deserved. It did not receive the psychological safety that it needed to grow and develop as a healthy adult. That's all that it is. Okay, so any behaviors or any negative experiences that you face because of your wounded inner child is not your fault. It's no one's fault. Sometimes the challenges that we face in our lives are meant to be there for us to grow, for our character to grow, to become a better human being. So you can actually define life your way and maybe help inspire other people to do the same. I hope this helps. Thank you.